let's talk about a version of ancient Rome you probably never learned about in school. It's a story about power, about identity, and about an emperor whose real face was almost completely erased from history.
Okay, so picture this. The year is 193 AD. Rome is an absolute mess. The greatest empire in human history has just been put up for sale, like it's a piece of old furniture.
And no, that is not a metaphor. The Praetorian Guard, these are the elite soldiers, right? They're sworn to protect the emperor while they murdered the guy they were supposed to be guarding, an emperor named Pertinax. And then they literally held an auction for the throne. It went to a rich senator, Didius Julianus, for the mind-boggling price of 25,000 sesterces per soldier. They honestly thought money could buy them the world. Boy, were they wrong.
Because while Rome's so-called elite were busy counting their silver, a totally different kind of power was on the move, marching down from the frozen Danube frontier. A man who could not have cared less about their little auction.
See, his name was Lucius Septimius Severus, and he wasn't marching on Rome to negotiate. He was coming to tear down the old Italian aristocracy and replace it with a brand new African order. And here's the thing, the historical sources are crystal clear about who this guy was. Severus wasn't just another Roman general. The historian Cassius Dio, who actually knew him personally, was very explicit. Severus was of Punic Berber heritage, that means from the indigenous people of North Africa, and he spoke Latin with his African accent for his entire life. This was a man from the edge of the known world, and he was coming to claim its center.
Severus didn't just want to rule Rome. He wanted to remake it completely. And that meant he had to systematically dismantle the old power structure, starting with the very guys who had put the empire up for sale in the first place.
His first move was just pure political theater, and it was designed for maximum humiliation. He summons the Italian praetorians, the ones who thought they were the masters of the empire, gets them to show up unarmed, surrounds them with his own loyal troops, and then publicly strips them of everything. In their place, he puts his own hardened veterans. For the first time ever, the city of Rome was being patrolled by men who looked and sounded like him. The Italian monopoly on power, it was shattered, just like that.
But, taking Rome was just the beginning. Severus still had rivals in the east and west. The final showdown went down at the Battle of Lugdunum. We're talking about an estimated 150,000 men on each side. It was one of the biggest, one of the bloodiest battles in all of Roman history. I mean, this was brother fighting brother on an imperial scale. And when all the dust settled, Severus was the only one left standing, the undisputed master of the Roman world.
And this quote, the advice he gave his sons on his deathbed, well, it pretty much became his entire philosophy of governing. Power didn't come from the Senate anymore. It didn't come from old Roman tradition. Nope, it came from the absolute loyalty of the army. So he purged the Senate of his enemies, took their wealth, and used it to give his soldiers a massive pay raise, making them the highest paid in Roman history.
So, with the old guard totally gone, Severus starts to build a new Rome, one that was governed not out of the old Senate house, but from a new, cosmopolitan court, where voices from Africa and Syria were now shaping the destiny of millions.
Before Severus, you got to understand power was an Italian affair. The Senate was the big club, and if you were a provincial, you were on the outside looking in. Severus completely flipped the script. He brought the edges of the empire right into the center. The new elite were guys like him, Africans, Syrians, who owed their loyalty directly to the emperor, not to some old traditions of the city.
The architects of this new world were incredible. You had his Assyrian wife, Julia Domna, who was a brilliant political partner. She even went on military campaigns with him. And his top legal advisors, Papinian and Ulpian, these two were absolute geniuses from the Levant who reshaped Roman law, literally laying the foundation for legal systems we still use in Europe today. This really was the reign of the provinces.
So, if this history is so clear and the sources are so direct, then we have to ask a really crucial question.
Why is it that when we picture Rome, we see all these white marble statues and pale emperors, and not the brown skin and African accent of the man who completely transformed the empire?
It's because the physical evidence is still out there, and it's undeniable. This painted wooden panel, which was discovered in Egypt, it's a family portrait. This isn't some piece of propaganda or an idealized statue. This is how they actually saw themselves.
And this is where the contradiction just becomes impossible to ignore. On one side, you have the primary sources. The Tondo shows him with rich, dark brown skin, way darker than his Syrian wife. Writers from his own time confirm his Libyan race and his African accent. But then, on the other side, you get later historians like Edward Gibbon who just couldn't handle that reality. They blamed the so-called influx of Orientals and Africans for ruining the purity of Rome, and that's when the systematic erasure really began.
Look, the image of a white antiquity was a story that was deliberately created centuries later. It was designed to invent a pure European lineage that could be used to justify colonialism and racial hierarchies. But the physical evidence, it tells the true story.
So what can we actually learn from the real story of the African emperor? Well, it's a lot more than just a piece of trivia. It's a set of really powerful lessons about how the world actually works.
Okay, lesson 1. Power is logistics. Severus wasn't just a general. His family was backed by the massive olive oil trade of North Africa, which was the real economic engine of the empire. 2. You enforce loyalty with incentives. He knew that when things get chaotic, you take care of the people holding the swords. And 3. Control the narrative. He didn't hide where he came from. He built huge monuments like the Septimius in Rome specifically to impress travelers arriving from his African homeland. He made his identity his brand.
And the results of all this? They were absolutely revolutionary. This chart says it all. Before him, the Senate was basically an exclusive Italian club. After him, a third of its members were from North Africa and the Levant. The center of gravity of the entire Roman world had shifted south, and it would never be the same.
You see, this isn't just about one emperor. It's about a multicultural, multi-ethnic reality that's been systematically buried. It forces us to ask, if we got the story of Rome, the very foundation of Western civilization, so wrong, what else have we been taught that needs a serious second look? The truth is out there, just waiting for us to find it.